heard today that there's a target of something like 15% of like the taxable support part of the budget that you aim for with the fiscal stability reserve, and that it will be a little bit short, won't it, of that goal if we continue with the projects that we're currently committed to?
It's always a little bit short. And the point of the fiscal stability reserve is to act as a bit of a shock absorber. So when times are good, we like to pump up that reserve a little bit so that we have it, although there are forces that always want us to pay it down, which allows us, when times are not so good, to be able to pull from it. That's why we've been able to, for example, spend $100 million on sheltering non-downtown businesses from tax hikes, because we saved up the money in the good times. So there's no need to pump it up at the moment, but we have to be very, very careful, because as I've said for a long time, we do run the risk of running out of money, and we are getting closer to that than I would like.
Olympic file. Have you received any assurances now from the federal government that it will be responsible for security cost overruns if there are any?
Yes and no.
Please explain.
Exactly.
So it's not clear.
Last Wednesday we heard
I'm not. Frankly, I'm not. Sorry.
Ralph Goodale supposedly signed off. We heard from Ms. Coneybear that the feds had signed off on security, and now we're hearing maybe not.
You know everything I know. The real issue here, though, is that in this time, it's not that important to focus on these. That's a pretty big issue, and I don't want to say it's a marginal issue, but the key here is that I think what people are forgetting, even on the insurance question and so on, is none of this stuff gets bought or spent until after we win a bid, which is still a year away. And so there's a lot of time to sort out these issues, and as I've said many times, there's a lot of contingency already in that budget. So what we're talking about is what would happen if we blew through all the insurance policies and $1 billion in contingency, then what would happen? And the possibility of that happening is pretty remote.
What did you mean though by yes and no?
Well, exactly what we've heard from the media is that I would prefer if all the elements of the federal government would speak with one voice.
Pretty high turnout in advance voting for the plebiscite.
Is there?
What does that tell you? Well, it seems like lineups and that kind of thing.
Oh, great.
There's a record number on the mail-in
right?
ballots as well.
Oh, good. That means that Calgarians are interested, and I am always happy with high voter turnout. Yes?
Can you, I don't recall an example of where Jeff Fielding sort of came in and threw up his hands before on something today. How serious or how great a magnitude is this problem?
It's serious, but it's not that serious. It is really a big deal, but let's not be overly dramatic about it. We're talking about an $89 million problem in a $4 billion budget. So as a result, we got to move forward, and the solutions that we're looking at are not particularly pleasant, but in some ways the answer is actually pretty clear. And it is, here's a list of 5 things, and our job is going to have to be to balance amongst these 5 things and figure out what the portions are. And maybe there's 6 or 7 or 8 things that can be added to that list. We just got to trek forward and fix this. The answers are not clear, but are we still in better financial position than almost every city in the country? Do we still have the lowest property taxes on the residential side in the country and very competitive business taxes? All of those things are true. So, most people would kill for the problems we've got. I'm not suggesting they're not big problems. We've got to solve them. I've been very aware of them for a long time, but I do want to put a little bit of perspective here.
It does seem
numbers that are rather large in terms of the tax increases facing businesses, 20% plus.
Now those are the big scary numbers.
So
yes.
What would you say to businesses that are looking at those numbers and thinking they're going to get a 20% plus tax increase?
For the last 2 years we've had your back, and we've managed to cap those increases at 5%. I don't think we'll be able to get quite to 5% again, but we continue to have your back, and that's why council is working on this. As I said before, it's not tenable to transfer all of that tax in 1 year to people and have them absorb those huge increases, to businesses, I should say. It's not tenable to transfer all of that to residents, to do all of that in one fell swoop. So we're going to have a mix of using some one-time money, figuring out some changes, and then thinking about long-term solutions as well. Ultimately, the solution to this is filling up the downtown at good lease rates, but we've got to figure out what we're going to do while we're getting there.
Do you think some of this needs to go into the city residential property owners?
I don't think all of it at once, and we had a report just today, I believe it was the Conference Board of Canada, it was reported this today, suggesting that in fact that shift is happening, that the residential tax base has gone up quite significantly over the last 10 years as a portion of the whole. So we are seeing that, and I would just caution my colleagues from doing anything too rash or trying to solve this problem all at once. You know, you have to eat an elephant one bite at a time.
This problem isn't. It's going to take a while for it to go away.
Yeah, it sure will. It's going to take a while through economic growth. It's going to take a while through rebalancing of our budget. I think it would be a mistake to try and overreact, but we certainly have to make sure that we're protecting those businesses and helping them stay vibrant while ensuring our general tax advantage.
It
What
did
happened
feel
in
like though
transit
that
with the bus situation? What's going to happen next with that?
Oh, in the budget, you mean?
Yeah.
I actually don't know because the budget comes out on Wednesday.
Right.
The budget comes out on Wednesday. But I was happy to hear today that there are no cuts being contemplated to the low-income transit pass.
it seemed like both solutions we've heard coming from the public and from business, though, either reducing the size of city budgets or rebalancing the burden between residential and non-residential, were sort of poo-pooed a little bit in that meeting, which leaves pretty much more of the same in terms of a reaction to this.
I don't think they were poo-pooed. I think that those are things we're looking at, but we have to also be realistic. You know, as the city grows, we found $500 million in savings in the last 4-year budget. You're not going to find $285 million of savings between now and next Wednesday, you know, particularly given the services that we have to provide. So, you know, we're always being efficient. We're keeping the budget as low as possible. The taxes remain the lowest in the country for residences and very competitive for businesses. So, and our budget is pretty lean. So we got to make sure that we're providing the services people want while at the same time ensuring that the tax burden doesn't shift and get very expensive for everyone. And it's not easy. But the good news is we're having this conversation, we're having it in public, and we are very open to ideas as well.
Anything else, folks? So obviously we still have more of this meeting to get through, but at the end of the day, like, what are you hoping to say to, like, Calgarians? We know this is a problem. Here's what
Today is really an information sharing day. All that committee is being asked to do is to start really formalizing, because I set up this informal working group many months ago because we saw this coming. And council today is being asked to formalize that work and give administration and council and the stakeholders an opportunity to think more about solutions and come back to us early in the new year.